I think the pressure of presenting to all of you on home ground has given my throat a stage fright. So apologies for that. I'm going to croak a bit. I have a little bit of a different view from my panelists. To me, mobility is not about the traditional cell phone or mobile phone. Mobility is something that is redefining the entire computing experience, and that's what we'll be talking about. You know, I think if you're going to talk about how computing experience is getting redefined and how do we come to grips with it, we need to start at the beginning. We need to start by taking a look at the journey that computing has taken so far. We are moving from an era of personal computers to personal computing, where computing becomes pretty much ubiquitous across all aspects of life. It's there no matter where we are, no matter what we do. And it's available in extremely different forms, shapes, sizes. Pretty much all of it is mobile. So the definition of personal computing is going through a drastic change. Let's look ahead of the next few years. By 2015, we will add 1 billion more people to the internet. The total will be around 2.5 billion people. We estimate around 15 billion connected devices and visual data growth over 10 times in size, increasing the data footprint across the internet to over 1,000 exabytes. Now, these numbers are mind-boggling, to say the least, but more impactful is what do they mean for us? What are the changes they are going to drive, and how is it going to impact us? I'm going to start with the data. According to the former Google CEO, Eric Schmidt, every 2 days, we are creating as much information or as much data as we did from the dawn of civilization up until 2003. Today, we create, or rather in 2011, in all of 2011, we created 1.8 zettabytes. I don't know how many of you know what a zettabyte is. A zettabyte is 1 trillion gigabytes. That's 1 with 21 zeros following it. That's the amount. And to make it more easily understood, it's equal to around 450 billion DVDs. That's the amount of data that gets created in a year, or that got created in a year, and it's just growing. But as the chart shows, we are still at the very beginning, at the very early stage. So if the internet is a movie, then we are just at the opening credits, mind-boggling as it may sound. What's even more remarkable, if you see the star chart, is the growth of unstructured data, and that's the green space. Unstructured data is the data we collect from various sources, be it our tweets, our Facebook posts, our emails, the photographs we upload, the videos we upload, or what we share, or what we comment on, or what we like. All of that, there's tremendous amount of data in there that talks about our preferences, that talks about who we are. And all of that becomes unstructured data that can be extremely valuable to companies. And going forward, it's going to be a key differentiator that businesses are going to use. In fact, McKinsey has been spending a lot of effort doing research in this area, and they show that organizations that will use big data analytics actually make much more productive and get higher returns than competition that doesn't. Over time, big data will become the new type of corporate assets that will cut across business units and functions, much as a powerful brand, much as the brand that we all value, and represent a key basis of competition. That is a big, big change that's being driven by mobility, driven by increasing access to the internet across the world. The next big one is what's happening with the devices per se. So, as I said, by 2015, there will be over 15 billion connected devices. It's called the Internet of Things. Very simply put, the Internet of Things is a world where the number of devices connected to, communicating through, and building relationships over the internet will exceed the number of human beings. So that's the definition, and that's the future scenario. What does it really mean? Is it about how big the devices are, or what shape and form the devices take, or how big the data generation is? No. I think it's about change. It's about the impact on our lives, how we lead our lives, the way we conduct business, the way we travel, the way we think about relationships. Everything gets impacted. And it's a pretty dramatic change. I think another way of putting this is it makes the ridiculous possible. So let me share one example. Might sound familiar, but this is from Rome. Rome faces chronic traffic congestion because people have a lot of difficulty finding parking spaces, right? How are they solving it? They're solving it by putting sensors into every single traffic light that will talk to the sensors in the cars or the connected cars through GPS and tell the driver where the nearest parking spot is. Very soon, a retail store near you will have a digital signage that sees you, recognizes who you are, man, woman, and some other characteristics that it looks at, and will show you customized advertisements or messages that is specifically meant for you. And it's already happening. Singapore, Malaysia, America, they're already deploying these kind of intelligent digital signages. All of this feels like science fiction, but it is a reality. And I think what we need to think through is, again, what's going to be the impact? The impact is staggering on our daily lives. If used properly, these can become an inherent part of areas such as electricity distribution, transportation, healthcare, oil and gas distribution, public services. This is what can rapidly change the public service system, make it more efficient, reduce pilferage, and bring about a much higher level of efficiency into the system. Again, powered by mobility, powered by increased access that we as consumers have to the internet and to devices of various forms and shapes. If you look at the devices per se, we're going to see evolution of devices. They're going to get more smarter. They're going to get more intuitive. Don't get carried away with what it's called today. Whether it's a smartphone, a tablet, it is just the beginning. There is so much more to come. I think there are two things we know for sure, or we can predict with some level of certainty. Today, devices are capable of recognizing touch across form factors. Very soon, for example, I use a laptop with a screen that is touch-enabled. So I have a keyboard as well as I can touch the screen. But very soon, touch is going to become passé. It's a given. What's going to happen is you're going to move towards gesture recognition. You're going to move towards voice recognition. As Professor Jhunjhunwala said, shouldn't matter who you are, what accent you speak with. The computer should be able to recognize you and be able to follow your command. And this is going to be one of the biggest changes that we're going to see, that the technology becomes much more intuitive. The other big trend that we will see is that the devices of the future will all talk to each other. They will all connect seamlessly without human intervention in many cases, and they will talk to each other. So if I download something on my smartphone in a car, by the time I reach office and I switch on my laptop, it's already downloaded on my laptop and it's ready for me to see without me having to do anything extra. That's the kind of seamless experience we're working towards. In the near future, if you see the next 6 months, it's going to be about convergence. Consumers want the performance that they get in the traditional laptops, married with the convenience they get in their phones and their tablets. So it's going to be about convergence. All devices, no matter what form it takes, will have features like instant on, touch, enabled. So these are all going to be a given. We go to the next factor, which is the users, which according to me is the most important piece of the puzzle. If you think about the users today, it's all about the experience. That's all they care about. They may buy a phone or a tablet for the hardware, but they stay with it because of the user experience. That is what's most important. Today, a consumer wants to know what technology can do for them. It's all about what can you do for me and how can I benefit from using this particular product. Everything else, from the type of device to applications, becomes a very secondary consideration. So what are some of the things that users are looking at? They're looking at, we've done a lot of research, ethnographic research in this, and they're looking at experiences that are intuitive, one, and consistent, two. The two key most things that users want today. Consumers want a world where computing knows them. It's like, okay, my computer has to recognize me, or my phone has to recognize me. It has to know who I am. It has to know what kind of music I like. It has to know what I like to watch on YouTube. And it has to do these things without me having to explain to it again and again and again what I want to do. This is the kind of intuitiveness that we want in our devices. And most importantly, it has to be a consistent experience no matter which device I'm using. At any point, I'll have around 3 to 4 devices, and I want a consistent experience across all. That's the consumer of today. At Intel, we call this state, the end state, the compute continuum, where consumers have the consistency and interoperability across all of their devices, from phones to PCs to tablets to connected cars to TVs to whatever gadget they choose to use. And it's a seamless experience regardless of where you are, what you are doing, or what your needs are in that particular point in time. And we are building out the capabilities across the portfolio of product to deliver on this vision over the coming years. To get great experience, you need great technology, and that's the commitment that Intel has. The lead that we've built in this field allows us to innovate like never before and come up with new models, new usage models, new technologies, new devices that is going to completely redefine the space. The innovation is across devices. It just cannot be one particular form factor today. It has to be across devices, starting with the PCs, the servers, the mobiles, the tablets. Innovation has to be across devices, and you have to ensure across the spectrum, devices are smarter, devices are more intuitive, and devices are able to work together. So the big focus, just to give you an insight into what's happening in the technology industry, the big focus in Intel today, the R&D focus or the investment, is in our labs that's focused on developing perceptual computing. Perceptual computing is all about coming up with ways to have the technology interact with voice, with gesture, facial recognition, etc. That's what's going to create the breakthrough of tomorrow, and that's a big focus for the industry today. The other big area is security. Imagine yourself surrounded 24/7 with intelligent devices that are all the time collecting data about you, from you, sometimes without you knowing it. It's sooner or later you're going to start questioning, what does this mean for my safety? I believe security is going to become the biggest consumer consideration in the future, and it's something we have to build into our devices, especially into the mobile devices, in order to ensure that that experience is safe. So we've looked at what's happening worldwide. What are some of the trends that's redefining the computing industry worldwide? Let's come closer to India. So our government came out with the approved national ID policy in September, and the goal, very ambitious, and I think it's much needed, is to create one, or to make one person per family illiterate. But our job is definitely cut out for us. Forget PCs. If you look at PCs, we are lagging. We are really lagging behind even other emerging markets, the rate of adoption, broadband and PCs. But mobile growth has been very rapid in this country. You hear about 900 million subscription numbers being talked about. I think Professor Jhunjhunwala also mentioned. The question is, how many people actually own those devices? I think that as per the latest research that came out, there are only 300 million people who actually own devices. The bigger concern is not how many own devices. The bigger concern, what are we doing with it? I think Professor Jhunjhunwala touched upon that very eloquently. We are today very proudly one of the topmost countries for Facebook, Twitter, etc., etc. Nothing wrong with it. But the question we have to ask for ourselves is that helping create more jobs? Is that helping take education to the rural parts of the country? Is that helping take healthcare to the rural parts of the country? Is that helping drive inclusive growth? That's the question we need to ask. And I think the answer today is no, it's not. I think the biggest transformative power of technology is its ability to drive inclusive growth, ability to make education universally accessible to all, make healthcare universally accessible to all. Our biggest problem in India, frankly, to me, is the lack of inclusive growth. No matter what challenges we are facing today, FDI and all of that, if we do not solve the problem of inclusive growth, it's the magnitude of the damage it can cause is absolutely way greater than any of the challenges we are facing today. But there are various successful pilots across India. I've listed a few here, and I can talk more about this offline later. But there are various successful pilots which shows that when used properly, technology can drive inclusion, technology can drive growth. The problem is we've become a country of pilots. The pilots do not get scaled up and become a national program. Yes, it's good to let 1,000 flowers bloom, but those 1,000 flowers need to come together at some point and create some sort of a joint impact. And that doesn't happen in India. And that's the biggest concern that we have. I think it's time that we as industry decided to acknowledge this problem and really figured out how do we use the innovations in mobility, innovation in technology to our advantage to drive inclusive growth in India and address some of these key issues that's taking place. Professor Jhanjhanwala talked about mobile finance. Africa has seen a revolution with mobile finance. In India, as he said, we have 15 different companies offering it. Still, no scale. It's all pilots. We have to ask ourselves why we are not able to scale any of these efforts. I think the problem we see on ground is lack of awareness, and I think Mr. Krishna Kumar touched upon this. We did a very interesting study, China, Russia, India, and Brazil, to find out the people who are not using technology, why are they not using it? Everywhere else, it was about cost. In India, more than 50% not using technology said, I don't know what to do with it. Cost was a secondary consideration, in some cases a third consideration. It was, I just don't know what to do with it. And I think we as a nation have to recognize that and really figure out how do we drive awareness at the grassroots level. It's time to act. It's enough of talks on this topic, and we Intel have got together with a range of like-minded partners to come up with a national digital literacy mission. All of us spend billions of dollars or millions of dollars on CSR activities. First step is come together, put that pool together, and figure out how we can drive digital literacy together, grounds up. A lot of effort going on, and I will sum up by saying that the innovations in technology today, or the innovations that's driving technology, mobility being one of the key innovations, is opening the door to new possibilities that this world has never ever seen before. The world is seizing these opportunities with both hands because it helps them develop that competitive edge that they need to compete in the global world. I don't think India can be left behind, but today India is being left behind because we are not using technology to the fullest potential. So, parting words, I think it's time we stop talking. It's time we figured out how to act and got together as an industry. It cannot be left to the government alone. I think it requires partnership across industry, government, social sectors, got together to figure out how do we solve this problem. I think all our futures pretty much depend on it. So with that, thank you very much.
Thank you, Debjani.